This is Top Accolade Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his government was expecting strong decisions from defense leaders of NATO and other countries meeting on Friday to discuss boosting Ukraine's ability to confront Russian forces with modern battle tanks. The meeting at Ramstein Air Base in Germany is the latest in a series since Russia invaded Ukraine nearly 11 months ago, and where future weapon supplies will be discussed, particularly of Germany's Leopard 2 tanks used by armies across Europe. Berlin has veto power over any decision to export the tanks, and Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government has appeared reluctant to authorize that for fear of provoking Russia. Some allies say Germany's concern is misplaced, with Russia already fully committed to war and its repeated assertions that Western weapons transfers would prolong the conflict and increase suffering in Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia have both relied primarily on Soviet-era T-72 tanks, which have been destroyed in their hundreds during the war that Russian President Vladimir Putin started on February 24th, calling it a special military operation to protect Russia and Russian speakers. People across China crowded into trains and buses for one of its busiest days of travel in years on Friday, feeding fears of new surges in a raging COVID-19 outbreak that officials say has hit its peak. In comments reported by state media late Thursday, Vice Premier Sun Chunlan said the virus was at a relatively low level, while health officials said the number of COVID patients in hospital and with critical conditions was on the decline. But there are widespread doubts about China's official account of an outbreak that has overwhelmed hospitals and funeral homes since Beijing abandoned strict COVID controls and mass testing last month. That policy U-turn, which followed historic protests against the government's tough antivirus curbs, unleashed COVID on a population of 1.4 billion that had been largely shielded from the disease since it emerged in the city of Wuhan in late 2019. Some health experts expect that more than 1 million people will die from the disease in China this year, with British-based health data firm Healthfinity forecasting COVID fatalities could hit 36,000 a day next week. Thousands of protesters in Peru, many from the country's heavily indigenous south, descended on Lima, the capital, on Thursday, angered by a mounting death toll since unrest erupted last month and calling for sweeping change. Police estimated the march at around 3,500 people, but others speculated it attracted more than double that. Rows of police in riot gear faced off against rock-hauling protesters on some streets, and one historic building in the city's historic center caught fire late on Thursday. The building on San Martin Plaza was empty when the massive blaze ignited from unknown causes, a firefighter commander told local radio. Canada-based Minor Bay said in a statement that protesters had entered the site of its Peru unit, damaging and burning key machinery and vehicles. Interior Minister Vicente Romero disputed claims circulating on social media that the Lima blaze had been caused by a police officer's tear gas grenade. Over the past month, riots and sometimes deadly protests have led to the worst violence Peru has seen in more than 2 decades, as many in poorer rural regions vent anger at the Lima establishment over inequality and rising prices, testing the copper-rich Andean nation's democratic institutions. "20 people have been confirmed dead and 8 remain missing following an avalanche in Tibet that buried multiple vehicles in deep snow and ice on a section of road connected to a highway tunnel." Images on Chinese state media on Friday showed rescue workers digging with mechanical diggers in deep snow to locate vehicles that were buried when the avalanche hit a road and highway tunnel connecting the city of Yingchi in Tibet southwest with outlying Medok County. As of Friday, 20 people were reported to have died and 8 are still missing, according to the state-run Global Times news outlet. A further 53 people have been rescued so far since the avalanche, which took place at about 8 p.m. on Tuesday on a section of road between Pai Village in Mailing County and the Dokzongla Tunnel in Medok County. China's state-run Xinhua news agency reported 5 of the survivors were seriously injured, it reported. Lawyers of 8-time Olympic gold medalist Usain Bolt say their client has been defrauded of $12.7 million from his account with a private investment firm in Jamaica that authorities are investigating. Bolt was informed last week that his account balance at Kingston-based Stock and Securities Limited (SSL) had inexplicably dwindled Linton P. Gordon, a lawyer of Bolt, said on Friday the account, which had $12.8 million, is now left with only $12,000. They threaten civil and criminal action if the money is not returned within 10 days. SSL, a private wealth management company based in the capital, Kingston, was placed under enhanced oversight while the Financial Services Commission (FSC) investigates the firm. SSL said it discovered the fraud earlier this month and that several of its clients may be missing millions of dollars. Jamaica's Finance Minister Nigel Clark called the situation alarming but noted it was unusual. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy weekend.